up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, and I hope you guys are enjoying the new year. I know it's been a while. It's been a long time. It's been a little bit over a month since my last video. We had a little family setback. We had a death in the family, so I really haven't been much up to making any type of videos and stuff like that. As most of you guys already know, or by looking around, we're actually not on the road, so we're home. But nonetheless, I try to once in a while put together a video if I get some content about a do-it-yourself project or stuff like that. But I'll get to that in a minute. So we had a death in the family. My brother, 57 years old, Pablo, my older brother, passed away on December 30th, this past December 30th, after a very courageous battle with that nasty disease called cancer. Yes, it was a setback, but you know, things happen, so I wasn't really in the mood to doing videos, but here I am. I'm going to do a video now, and ironically, the video that I'm going to do today is another, not necessarily a do-it-yourself project. I know that I've mentioned in the past that this is not a do-it-yourself channel, but occasionally I do some stuff that to upgrade, to upgrade my RV, and I like to bring it to you guys. Some of you guys have actually benefited from these videos. I know that I've had a lot of comments in regards to the washer and dryer installation in my RV. Some of you guys have benefited from that project, and I'm glad I was able to help. But today, since we're not on the road, since we're not traveling, and there's more to that coming up. Since we're not on the road, basically this video is going to be another upgrade, another upgrade to the RV. Not necessarily to the RV itself, but I was able to, or actually Santa Claus was very good to me this Christmas. As you can tell right here over my shoulder, I was gifted, Santa Claus brought me a King dish tailgater, which I've already installed on the RV. But before I get into that, let's do a quick update on a previous project that I had. Let me share that with you guys right now. So there you go. I backed in this morning, and the truck did not sink at all. Actually, this is a great area. You can see the grid right there. Everything worked out great. It looks kind of muddy right now, but it's really not muddy. I could have put sod down, but the sod, we would have been right back to square one. As soon as I drove over the sod, I would have broken the grass. So basically this area has been seeded. You can see some of the grass coming up now through the seed. The best thing to do is have the grass grow through, and that way we won't mess up the sod. But that's it. That's the update on this project. This came out great. Okay, so that's where we're at with the grass driveway mud project, whatever you like to call it. It's coming along really good. I'm really happy with the way that came out. But enough of that. Let's get to today's video. So I mentioned that this is a project, a do-it-yourself upgrade, call it what you want. And ironically, I'm doing this video at the same time that I'm mentioning about my brother's passing. My brother was basically the inspiration to my, to my wanting to do things on my own. It's really nice to, to pay somebody to do stuff for you, but when you're in this type of lifestyle, in the RV type of lifestyle, all the RVers out there will agree with this. You gotta have a little working knowledge. You gotta be pretty confident around a toolbox. You gotta know how to fix a few things. You gotta know how to do a few things. Not necessarily because they'll break, which they will, but you also got to be good around a toolbox in order to make things easier for you. So, upgrading things, make things work a little bit better. So I mention ironically because my brother was an absolute master of no trade in itself. He He never went to a technical school. He never went to he never graduated from college or any of those things. But trust me, that doesn't define you as a person as far as your skill levels and your ability to do things. My brother was the kind of guy that would take apart a perfectly working, I don't know, refrigerator, fan. He would take it apart just to see how it would work. And over the years, he just learned. He could do a little bit of everything. He was good at everything. I never heard my brother say no to a challenge or a project. So that's where I get my inspiration from. I enjoy working with my hands. I'm pretty good at doing stuff myself. I actually prefer to do them myself. You know, occasionally you run into some things that you have to outsource, that you have to pay somebody to do for you. But for the most part, I like doing them myself. So this video, if you guys notice when I was showing you the grass project, which again is coming along great, you'll notice that this dish was on a tripod. So that tripod, Santa Claus brought me also. Now, let me stop for a second. If you ever in a campground, or you guys will notice that there's a lot of people that have these either sitting on top of a picnic table. They have them on the tripod. Let me tell you, there's not a lot of reports about people stealing stuff from campgrounds. People respect each other, respect each other's areas, they respect each other, so there's not a lot of theft. However, after 35 years in law enforcement, it's unfortunate, but I have this thing ingrained in my mind that if you make something easy for somebody, even a person that is not inclined to commit a crime, if you make it too easy for them, unfortunately, we live in a society where you'll run into a person here or there that will take advantage of the situation. And every time that I'm at a campground and I see somebody with one of these things sitting on top of a picnic table, it just blows my mind how I don't know what the word careless, or I guess it's a good thing that you don't live in fear of somebody stealing something from you. But I just look at it and I say, oh my goodness, I just cannot, if I ever had one of those, I just could not see myself doing that. Well, here I am, I actually got one. They gave one to me. So at the campground that we were at during Christmas, when we were up visiting with my brother, spending time with my brother, I did install this. It was right after Christmas, and I did have it on the tripod. And I'll be honest with you, every night I would take it down and bring it in, and put it out and bring it in. So what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to make it a little bit more difficult for somebody to just pick up and walk away with it. And at the same time, I'm going to do something that hopefully it will give me better reception and easier, and I'll be confident in leaving it installed. And I'm going to share that with you guys today. All right, so this is what we're going to do here today. I don't like my dish to be sitting on a table or the tripod down at ground level, simply because I don't want to make it an easy target for somebody to steal it. So I have seen people install the dish permanently up on their RV. Not a fan. I really don't want to do that because I don't want to go and drill unnecessary holes on the roof of my RV just for something like that. Plus, I don't want it exposed to the elements all the time. So what I have seen people install flagpoles on their rear hitch. I have an accessory hitch back here on the back of my RV. I have seen people install the flagpoles here on the ladder that leads up to the roof. I did a little bit of research and I found this on the internet. This is basically a flagpolebuddy.com. I think I got this off the internet, and let me backtrack a little bit. When you do a project, the idea is to make it as cost effective as possible. This item right here, out of everything that I bought for this project, was the most expensive. This is a $60 item. It gets installed permanently to the side of your ladder, and you can install a flagpole. Now in my case, I'm not installing a flagpole. I'm actually going to be installing my dish, my tailgater, but I wanted to install it up in the air. And I figured if I bought this, I could somehow adapt it to fit what I'm doing. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. This is not something that I invented. I got this from a couple people on YouTube. This has already been done. Everybody has used a little bit. They've used their own style. They've added their own little touches to this thing. In my particular case, I don't have a flagpole to refurbish to use for this project. Most people do that. They take a flagpole and refurbish it. I, on the other hand, I started looking into a piece of aluminum tubing. Now, mind you, this is called 2.0 for a reason. It's the base and this little thing here, which I'll show you when I'm installing. It's got a 2-inch diameter hole in it. So in today's day and age, to find a 2-inch piece of aluminum, which is probably the optimum material to use for something like this, because remember, whenever you're dealing with an RV, you want to keep weight to a minimum. A 2-inch outside diameter piece of aluminum pipe, 8 feet long, which is what I want to deal with, is up in the $70, $80 range. So what I did to counter that is, remember, I'm trying to keep it cheap. I'm trying to make it obviously functional, and it can't weigh too much. So what I did is I went out and got myself an 8-foot length of fence tubing, which is 1 5/8 thick. I bought it for $17. It's obviously galvanized, doesn't weigh that much, so it's weight, conducive to being in an RV, and it doesn't rust. Although I am going to put some rust inhibitor on it. I'm going to paint it. I don't need to bore you guys with that. I'm going to paint it and use it. But in order to use a 1 5/8 inch pipe or tubing for this project, I'm going to have to do a little bit of creativeness. I'm going to have to use a little creativeness to adjust this to what I'm doing. But for now, let's start off with the easy stuff first. I know exactly how high I want to install this so that it sticks up above my roof level. And we're going to start off with that kit first, and then we'll get back to the adaptations. All right, let's start off with the base, which is right here, the holder of the pole. I know exactly where I want to install it. Let's get to it. I don't want to bore you guys with all the little stuff, so I'll speed it along. All right, so the base is installed, or actually the base for this part is installed. I'm not going to install this just yet. I'll show you guys when I do that, but I'm not going to install this just yet because since I have to do a little bit of a modification to make sure that the galvanized tubing fits in here properly and snug, I'm not going to install that. I'm not going to install it yet, but I'll get to that. When I get to that part, I'll bring it to you guys. I don't know if you guys are noticed, and maybe I'm just jumping the gun here a little bit. I know that you guys are probably wondering, well, once this gets up there, how do you stop it from moving around? If you notice right here, this little hole, it takes basically a set screw. Once you have your pole in, once you find the satellite, once you twist it and find the satellite, the direction you want it to be facing, you just set the screw and it stops it from moving. And I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to adapt this to make it work to my advantage. All right, kind of did a little measuring. The instructions say that this piece Now mind you, if you haven't figured out what this piece is, this is where the pole goes like this. You put it in cockeyed, then you straighten it up, and it sits. The instructions say that they should be at minimum 3 feet apart from each other. Mine are going to be about 4.5 feet, and they're going to be like that for a reason. Let's go. All right, so this piece right here brings these two little stickers. These two little, they're like felt strips. And basically you put one in here and you put one on the other side right over here. All right, but I told you guys that I'm going to have to modify this to my liking. Basically, I'm going to replace those two with two pieces, same exact location, two pieces of basic, what's it called? Water strip, okay? A seal. Why? It's a little bit more cushiony. Now remember, this is made for a 2-inch pipe, okay? I'm dealing with 1 5/8 inch, so I got to make up that little gap somewhere. This is how I'm going to do it. Number one, or I believe it's going to be a better result because it's more cushiony. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to install that right now. Weather stripping, that's the word I was looking for. One. And the other one goes right here. 2. Just like that. So when I put my pole through and twist it, it'll be a little bit more cushioning. Now I'm going to go ahead and install that up there, leave it. And what I'm going to need for that is a socket set, 12 millimeter, and that'll be it. While I'm at it, let me just bring up a good point. Everybody that deals with RVs realize that these things have a tendency, everything around it, everything that has a bolt on it, a nut on it, a screw, you know, every so often you need to come back while doing your maintenance and you need to test these things. I guarantee you that every few 100 miles, whenever I get a minute at any one of the campgrounds that we're at, I'll be coming back and I will be tightening these screws because undoubtedly they're going to rattle loose. So let's get back up. All right, so what I consider the easy part is done. We got that part done. I like the way it came out. Perfectly straight. Let me just do a trial on this pole to see if it's going to work how I envisioned it. Oh yeah, that worked perfect. Now let's get to the stuff that we're gonna have to engineer a little bit. All right, so we did the outside part. We're back in here to the to my little work area, my little shop. And this is what we got going on now. So this dish is going to be, has to be sitting on top of something. What I got for that, believe it or not, once again, trying to find the most least expensive, effective way of doing this. Bought a piece of plastic. This is a 1/4 inch thick. Some of you guys are wondering, well, where did he get that? What type of plastic is it? I know I'm going to receive a lot of criticism, but as far as I'm concerned, it's trying to find the way to accomplish something and spend as less money as possible. Okay? I tried to look for regular PVC sheets, very expensive. Very expensive. I found this here at a local place. It's 18 by 24, 1/4 inch thick. And it's actually a cutting board. Okay? I'm going to try to cut this to size. I could probably use it just like this, but the bigger it is, I believe the more wind resistant you're going to get. Remember, the dish itself is kind of aerodynamic. It's nice and round, so I don't want to have too much of a base that's going to create resistance. So my idea was to cut this as close as I can, leaving myself a little edge around to work with. I've never cut this. I don't even know if this will cut, but I'm going to try it. And if it works, it'll be cool. And if it doesn't, it'll make for great footage. All right, so the idea is to give the dish a base to set on, and then I'm going to show you guys what I need that for. The plan is to permanently attach this to the end of the galvanized rod that I'm going to have on the stairs to the RV. How am I going to do that? I'm going to use this. This is for marine installation. I'm sure some of you boaters out there have seen this before. It's basically a base, and you put the table on top. One of the challenges that I'm dealing with this is that this hole here, while it starts off with a 2-inch inside diameter, it tapers off. It tapers inward. So I may be able to use that to my advantage because I'm dealing with a pole that's 1 5/8 as opposed to 2 inches. I have an idea of what I want to do with that, but first things first. Let's start off with the cutting board. All right, so let's give it a shot. See what we got. Okay, I'm actually really happy with the way that came out. It's pretty thick, 1/4 inch. It cut perfectly. It's made out of hard plastic, so we don't have any. We're not going to have any problems with the elements. It'll serve as a good foundation. So actually, you know what? I may work out here. This is probably a little easier to move around. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my satellite, I'm going to set it here where I want it to go, and I'm going to mark the pilot holes of how I attach it to this plastic. All right, so I placed it basically where I want it. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 holes that I'm going to drill some pilot holes. Then I'm going to show you guys how I attach or what my plan is to attach this to this base. Remember, this needs to be totally mobile. I can take it on, put it off anytime I want, but the base will be permanently attached to the pole that goes on the RV ladder. Let's make these marks. All right, so what do we got going on here now? I'm getting ready to drill the holes of the marks I just made. I got 3 different size drill bits, working my way up to a quarter inch because that's the size of the clevis pins that I bought. But I don't know, or I don't want to damage the board, so that's why I'm going to start off with a smaller bit, and it just increases the size. Let's see how this works out. That wasn't too bad. Let me bring out the pins. I'll show them to you and see if they fit. All right, so here are the pins that I'm talking about. I'll show you to you guys here in a picture. This is what I'm talking about. They are 1/4 by 1.5 inch universal clevis pins, and I have the connectors also. I bought multiple size. They were like $4. So let me see if these things fit. All right, what you saw me doing there is the holes that come on the satellite themselves aren't big enough for the 1/4 inch pins, so I just bored them out a little bit, and they should fit pretty snug. They should fit kind of tight. It's still supported, so it's not like I weakened it anything. It still has support, so I should be good. All right. So now that I got my my holes drilled on my base, I've already showed you guys the pins. I've already bored out the holes on the actual tailgate or the satellite itself. Let's temporarily place this on the base and see if the pins work. There you have it. Works like a charm. Now all I got to do is slide the pins in every time and we're good to go. So this part of the project is a success. Let's move on now to the mounting of that base, that metal, the aluminum base that I showed you guys. onto here. But as far as this goes, it's a success. All right, so far so good. No complaints really. Everything's working out as I had envisioned it. Next step is we're going to attach this to the bottom of this. It's not critical, but I'm going to do a little measuring because I want to make sure that this is as close to the center of this contraption as possible, strictly for center of gravity, strictly so it'll stay even as much as possible. So let's try it. Let's find the center. Alright, so I found dead center. I went ahead and marked where I need to drill my pilot holes. Now how am I going to, this is going to be permanently attached to this base. So the pole is going to be attached to this, and this is going to be permanently attached. So when I get to wherever I'm going, I just pull this whole contraption out. At ground level, I attach my satellite, lift it up, put it in its place, set, tighten up the set screw so it doesn't move, of course, after I find my satellite. So how am I going to attach this onto this? I'm going to be using, I believe the proper name for these are sidewalk screws. Down here in Florida, we call them hurricane shutter screws. So I am going to be using these to attach this to my base plate. Let's go back out to my drilling area. All right, that's basically what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and drill these 6 pilot holes. Remember, the one in the middle was just trying to find dead center. Good enough. All right, so we're back inside. Now remember, we want this to be on the bottom. So in order to do that, let's get our hurricane screws or sidewalk screws. Let's fit them through. I have 6 of them. Not that this needs 6, but I figure the base has 6. It was designed and engineered to have 6. So I'm going to use it with 6. I'm not using it for the exact application that it was designed for or engineered for, but nonetheless, can't hurt. So this is complete. Should not interfere with the bottom of the satellite. The bottom of the satellite, I don't know if you guys noticed, has 3 little rubber mounts, which don't amount much to I mean, aren't any lower than this right here. So these sidewalk screws should be just fine. Now comes what I believe is going to be the more difficult part, which is how to adapt the 1 5/8 tubing that I'm going to use into this 2-inch tapered hole. The base over there shouldn't be too difficult. This one right here, which is going to be permanently attached, might be a little bit of a challenge. I have an idea. Let's see if it works out. All right. So here's what I got planned. I didn't want to bore you guys with the little idiosyncrasies. Remember, I told you I was dealing with a 2-inch inside diameter for this base and a 1 5/8 inch metal tubing. Now, I have nearly 2 or 3, I don't know. I got a pretty gap to fill in. So what I did is, I didn't want to use any kind of couplings or any other metallic type of couplings. If you remember back in your days, back in school, you know, certain metals don't go well together, don't do well together, because you'll have all kinds of interactions. Or maybe I'm thinking this out too much. But I went ahead to the local hardware store, Home Depot to be exact, and I purchased a PVC coupling, and I cut it in half. Turns out that it fits pretty snug. Okay, I'll just use PVC glue, or I also have some epoxy, but I'm going to show you what the idea behind the epoxy is. I'm going to use some PVC glue, and I'm going to stick this on here, and then I'm going to stick the tube inside here. But before I do that, I'm going to take some of this automatic wiring tape, which is kind of a, I don't know, kind of thick, and I'm going to wrap it in there, and I'm going to snug it in as best I can. I was thinking of drilling some pilot holes here on the side and maybe drilling some screws into it to hold it in place. Not sure if I'm sold on that just yet. I'm gonna give that a little bit more of a thought. And then once this is in here and I got it as snug as possible, as best I can, then I'm gonna go ahead and fill it all in with epoxy, and that should hold it in place. That should fill the gap, and that should do it. That should hold it in place. So that's my thought. That's what I'm going to do. All right, I'm going to let that set for a minute, let it dry for a minute, and then I'm going to tape up. Obviously, you guys just saw me. I'm actually working the bottom part of the pole first. It's perfect. And now I'm going to work the other end. But I'm going to let this sit for a minute, and then I'm going to tape it off like I said I was. All right, so that's what it looks like. Don't judge me on the glue. This is the part that goes on the ladder behind the RV. This goes just like that. You twist it, and it's nice and snug. In goes your set screw, and you're done. Worked pretty good. All right, so I'm working on the pole, and I already figured out how it's going to go here. I already finished that. So now I'm going to come here and I'm going to install this real quick. All right, so I'll show you. Let me put this up first, and then I'll show you how it goes. Works like a charm. Let me flip this. All right, so here's how it looks here. You can see that I can twist it around depending on which way the satellite is. I can set my screw here. It goes straight up, and satellite will be up there. All right, so you guys saw the pole work. Now we're gonna, this is the top part. We have to fill in, we have some gap to make up here as well. So I'm gonna do it again. Unfortunately, I ran out of the other PVC glue, so I'm gonna have to use some of this rain or shine one, the blue one. Don't hate me for it. Although I can take criticism pretty good. All right, that's a go. We're gonna let that dry for a minute. Then we're gonna get to the meat and potatoes, which is basically attaching this to this. That's the one that's gonna go on with epoxy. 4,000 PSI epoxy, and see how that works. All right, so the coupling has dried, and if you could tell, I added some more of that that wiring tape, which I said is very thick. If you notice, the actual tape that I've added here, let me flip this around, is actually thicker here, and then it kind of tapers off. I actually did this on purpose because remember the base mount that I have is actually tapered but in reverse. So basically I want it to be snug down at the bottom, but I want to leave a gap around this side here, and I'll show you this. I'll flip the camera around in a minute. And for the reason behind that is because as I push the epoxy into that gap, I want to have a nice thick bead all the way around it. To give it some more, I guess, grabbing power. So that's why I did that. But I'll show you exactly what I mean now. Let me put it in here and I'll show you. So basically that's the way I want it to look. There's actually a gap in there where I have some room to pour the epoxy in there, and it gives it some room to grab, and at the same time it has some tape down at the bottom. See all that room that I have for epoxy? It has some room, and it's also snug. So let me try this and let's see how it works. All right, so I brought the project in here. We're at the final stages of the project. I needed a level, steady ground plus an environment. Outside it was too cold and stuff like that. I didn't want to. I needed a controlled environment, which is where I'm at right now. I've already leveled this. Everything is straight. Now I'm going to mix my epoxy. I'm going to put it in here. It sets in about an hour. I have about an hour to be able to level it and get it all straight. And then it says that it fully cures in 24 hours. So here I go. Okay, so for now, that's a wrap. I'm gonna check it for level one more time right before I leave it overnight. It is good to go. Not sure how this resin is going to work. Went in there pretty deep. I put as much as I can. Worst case scenario, if I see that the resin is not working exactly to my satisfaction, I'll drill a hole all the way across it, and I'll put a pin, and then the pin will hold it in place. But for now, I think we're good. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this video was dedicated to my brother, who I mentioned passed away very recently. And I'd like to end this video with a small tribute to him.
It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. Why'd you have to leave so soon, yeah? Why'd you have to go? Why'd you have to leave me when I needed you the most? 'Cause I don't really know how to tell you without feeling much worse. I know you're in a better place, but it's always gonna hurt. Carry on. Give me all the strength I need to carry on. It's been a long day without you, my friend, and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. We've come a long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When I see you again. How do I breathe without you? I'm feeling so cold. I'll be waiting right here for you till the day you're home. Carry on. Give me all the strength I need to carry on. So let the light guide your way. Yeah. Hold every memory as you go, and every road you take will always lead you home. Oh, it's been a